Hello, my class. So, I am in a canoe and I am on the lake at Roundy, and I am in charge of making sure people are safe. But seeing as I've already got instructors out with them, I thought I might have a chance to sit and read to you guys. So, we're going to look at chapter 8 now on how to make an entrance. Okay, so let's go. I must have slept after that because the next thing I remember was Miss Snoresworthy shouting in my ear. "Tea or coffee?" she yelled. "Nothing." "I haven't got nothing, young man. You've got to get up your strength. It won't be long before you get out of here. Got to feed those muscles in your leg." "Squash then," I growled. "That's better," said Miss Noseworthy. "You're looking peaky this morning. I'll be back later and I'll see if I can get you some biscuits. That'll put a smile on your face." I almost died of shock. Miss Noseworthy was being nice to me. Amazing. And then, of course, I realised why. It was because the police were coming to arrest me. She only felt sorry for me, that's all. I accept the whole hospital knew by now. The police were coming for Jack, the 11-year-old criminal, the killer. "Can you help me sit up?" I asked Miss Noseworthy, and she adjusted the bed. Liam gave me a thumbs up Liam gave me a thumbs up and pointed across to the desk. I was surprised to see Kathy there talking to Acne Man, who had just come on duty for the day. They were smiling at each other and touching hands. Very strange. Liam slipped from his bed and came over. "I saw them snogging," he said excitedly. "You never did." "What? I mean, like real? That's almost too disgusting to consider." And I heard what they were saying. Acne Man said he'd always fancied her. Yuck. And he said he didn't have the courage to say anything about it until he got the note she wrote. "She was writing him notes?" "No, she wasn't," grinned Liam. Kathy was really surprised and asked him about the note that he was talking about, and he said the note she left on his desk. Oh, swans are coming. "It took a few seconds for the penny to drop, and then I got it." "You mean the note the one you..." Liam nodded. "But it was from Kirsty. K for Kirsty. I didn't put down Kathy." "I know, but it's Kathy with a K, not a Kathy with a C. "Oh, bummy bums," I cried. "Now look what you've started," Liam said. "It's disgusting." It might have been disgusting, but I was a bit miffed. It'd been a perfect plan, and it had failed. "Rats," I hissed. And at exactly the same moment, an utterly brilliant idea. "Quick, nip across to Kirsty's bed while she's snoozing and grab a chart." "Why?" "Just do it before anyone sees." Liam slipped over, took the chart off the end of Kirsty's bed and brought it back. I took my pen and quickly added a steep upward line to Kirsty's temperature. "Put it back, quick." Liam had only just managed to get the chart back in place and place himself into bed when the ward door swung open and my blood froze. A tall, sharp man came in, glanced around the room. His hard eyes glittering like tiny stones, he marched across to the desk, lugging a large, heavy briefcase with him. It obviously had something important inside, like a portable torture rack. "I'm here to interview Jack Lemming," he announced loudly, and my heart went into a steep nosedive. My face was burning. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. I hardly dared look at the man as he approached, and then I saw my parents arrive. I didn't know whether to be glad or worried. Thank goodness they were here, but then they'd find out about everything. I closed my eyes and wished I was far away on a desert island somewhere. Just me, all by myself on a warm beach with some coconuts and a tinkling waterfall nearby with sparkling fresh water and lots of free food with a pet monkey to play with and a boat and a cabin cruiser with twin outboard motors and some... Jack! I opened my eyes. I wasn't on a warm beach. I was still in hospital and I'd started to sweat. "Yes? Hi, Jack," smiled Dad. "We came in because the inspector needs to ask you some questions about your accident. It's quite straightforward." Oh, Dad, if only it was straightforward. But it wasn't. It was the opposite. What is the opposite of straightforward? Bent backwards? That'd be it. It was all bent backwards. "Perhaps I could ask a few questions," suggested the inspector. Perhaps I could ask a few questions, suggested the inspector, his cold eyes resting on mine. "I'm Mr. Cutter. Managed to track you down last night. I was beginning to think you'd gone into hiding. I need to ask you some questions about the day of the accident. You were at the supermarket." I nodded and I gritted my teeth. Beads of sweat broke out on my forehead. "You left the supermarket on your bike and you rode into a car?" "Yes." "What colour was the car?" My mind was being sucked into a whirlpool. What colour was the car? What on earth did he want to know that for? It must be a trick. He was trying to unsettle me and force me into a confession, I thought rapidly. Well, I'd got clever Mr. Cutter sussed. He wasn't going to get the better of me. It was black, I said, which was true-ish. The tyres were black. In detective stories, they call this laying a false trail. In other words, I was leading Inspector Cutter right up the garden path. Ha! You should have seen the effect it had. Cutter's eyebrows slid right away up to his head and stayed there for at least 10 seconds. I bet I could fool Sherlock Holmes if I wanted to. Black, repeated Mr. Cutter. Yes. It wasn't red? Yes, I agreed. It was red and black with silver bits. Mr. Cutter turned to Mum and Dad. Just make sure we've got the right vehicle. He looked a bit perplexed. Is your son always like this? What do you mean? Is he always... Mr. Cutter struggled for the word odd, he suggested. Mum and Dad both nodded vigorously. Oh yes, he's always been very odd, said Mum. But he did fall on his head when he was 3. And again when he was 5, said Dad. I'm 5.5, Mum threw in for good measure. Thanks a bundle, Mum and Dad. You're real pals. Mr. Cutter frowned. Tell me, Jack, what was the main colour of the car? Red, I think. He wrote that down, that the car was moving. No, it was parked. I'm floating, guys, into the side. I'll just carry on reading. We'll just go float to the trees. Was anyone inside? I shook my head. You crashed into an empty parked car that wasn't moving. Yes. Why? I mean, how come you didn't see a parked car right in front of you? My eyes were half shut. Oh, Jack, said Mum. He's a bit of a lemon, Dad explained, a trifle crossly. Just for the record, your eyes were half shut. To stop the bees and midges and things getting into them when I'm riding fast. Does that happen often? No, because I keep them half shut. It was thinking, this man's an idiot. Does he think I do this for fun? Dad was giving me a dark scowl for some reason. Mr. Cutter tapped his pen thoughtfully on his notepad. Yes, of course you were riding fast. Why was that? Bums. My false trail hadn't worked. I'd bit my lower lip. This was it. They'd find out in a second now. Anyone for tea? Phew, it was Miss Noseworthy with the tea trolley. I'd never been so pleased to see her. She stood there and with one hand holding a big metal teapot and the other her trolley, and then the curtain around the side of the trolley slowly fell open and a body tumbled out and crumpled on the floor beside the bed. It lay there, face up and arms and legs spread eagle, with a huge red blood stain across its chest. It was Maisie, the ginger alien. For a tiny moment, all you could hear was the dribble and splash of the tea pouring out of Miss Noseworthy's teapot and onto the floor, and her long, reserved scream, as if she was swallowing it. Her mouth was as wide as a Channel tunnel, and instead of a scream coming back out of her mouth, it was being sucked in. The teapot fell to the floor with a clatter, and a moment later, Miss Noseworthy followed. Her legs seemed to fold up beneath her, and she collapsed in a heap right in the middle of the tea puddle. Oh my, began the inspector, when his eyes seemed to disappear inside of the skull. He toppled forward and sprawled across Miss Noseworthy while Mum and Dad just stood there gazing down at the ever-increasing pile of bodies at their feet. Acne Man and Tricia came hurtling across. Tricia plunged on to her knees beside Maisie, and just as she bent over, the dead Maisie suddenly sat up. She gave everyone a manic grin, flung her arms wide open and cried out, "Yippee, I'm alive, I can speak." Then up she jumped and began to stride round the ward. I can walk, I can talk, it's a miracle. And it sort of was. Okay, guys, that's the end of chapter 8, and we'll look at reading chapter 10 shortly. Bye.